Hey up guys, it's Ricky here. I thought I'd do a follow-up to my last lesson, which is all about the theory, and get into some of the practical for playing the actual major scales. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually play the scale of C major. I'm going to show you in a few different places and just ideas that you need to wrap your head around. Don't worry about memorizing all this stuff because there'll be a PDF in the description below as ever. The first way we generally tend to learn the C major scale is by learning the open position C major scale. Now this is a useful one because if you play the chords from the key of C major, then the scale is the map. I've done a video on that, I'll put it in the end card. The scale is the map for what notes are permissible in those chords. So you've got a C chord here. Now you might want to add some bits to that to make it prettier. But for it to remain in C, they have to be specific notes. And if you put wrong notes in, then those notes will not sound as good as they could do. Yeah, you might get some bum notes in there. So let's look at this. This is the C major chord. And you'll notice that the shape that I play actually follows the shape of the chord. So here's the root note, followed by the root note again, which is played an octave higher. So, and you can hear there that we get our C major, our do, re, mi scale. Going up the scale is generally going to be a little bit easier than descending because it's a different vision that you need. You need to see it a little bit differently. So if we go... Now you see the thing with this one is there's lots of open strings, which can be easy to miss, like the G string. You start thinking, all right, okay, well, why did I do that? It's because you just forgot there were open strings in this one, because you focused on fretting with this hand. A way of looking at it could be, if you think there's one note on the A string, which is the root note, then what happens is it's followed by 3 notes on the D string. 0, 2, 3. Then what happens is we get 2 notes on the G string, and then we get 2 notes on the B string. Look at it in that way. That means you're not going to miss out on those open strings. So look, 1 note. That's pretty simple. The next string, you just got to remember to play those 3. And what I'd probably do is, while you're learning this, do it in small chunks. Chunks are amazing. So we go, right, we've got that one. Now let's look at this string here. Repeat it. Repeat it to defeat it. See there? Going up the scale, but then down it again. Then join those 2 strings together and make that into one chunk. Then what we can do is we can add the next string. Well, let's just look at that G string on its own and just practice getting that feeling in your hands, because the thing is, the muscle memory has to come first, but you've got to have a vision. Use the PDF. You need the picture in your head, so let's play that G. And it's just playing that there, look. Get used to the feeling. What you really want is you want it to be nice and boring. If it's nice and boring, it means you don't have to think about it. It means you've got it. It means you own it, and that means that you've mastered it. If it's nice and boring, you can do it. Let's put that on there. And I might just play this one for a bit. That's a really small shark. Yeah. And practice just going up and down 4 notes. Now let's add that D string and that A string back on. Play the chord and you'll know that that sounds right. Yeah, so listen to that. Now what you can do, and it's never too early to start this, is using a metronome. If you find a metronome difficult, then there's a channel called Lumbeat, which I highly recommend. I use it all the time myself for jamming and just playing scales, so the metronome doesn't do my head in, because it can be very tedious listening to a metronome if you put in any meaningful practice in. You want to get these scales down. Like I say, repeat it to defeat it. You've got to do it a lot if you want to own this. You've got to do it a lot if you want to master this scale. So make sure you do that. You've got to do it. Another strategy to get these scales under your fingers is play each note 4 times. That gives you enough time to fill up the mental buffer. If you remember the days of old when you used to have a CD player in the car, and what would happen is you'd go over a bump and then the CD would stop playing until the buffer filled up, the memory buffer filled up. Well, we think that way as well. It's about 11 to 15 seconds that we can actually actively hold something in our front of mind conscious. Now, using that, what we need to be able to do then after we've done that, we need to be able to chuck the garbage information away, throw that away, and retain the bit that we want to know. Now, that comes from absolute awareness in what you are doing, but you can only be aware if you're going at a pace that is suitable. If you're playing like this and you're going all over the shop, then you are taking no information in. Go at your own pace, and a way to go at your own pace and to slow it down is to play each note 4 times. And what we do is we do this division. We play it 4 times, then we play it twice, and then we play it once. And by doing so, we increase the muscle memory. The muscle memory comes in quick, but then what also happens is we get over this kind of fretboard blindness. This is what happens. You get this fretboard blindness where you go in and you kind of think, oh, where am I now? I'm lost. So here's what we do. We do it slowly and we go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's really simple, guys. You could pick it down, but if you want to develop the right hand, your picking hand, then do it down, up, down, up. Down, up, down, up. Do it alternate picking. It's up to you how you want to pick, but the idea is to merge these things together. The next note's an open string. The next note is the 2nd fret, because remember the D string had 3 notes on it. That. We've already practiced that as a chunk. This 2nd finger goes on 4 times. That's the 3rd fret 4 times. Open G string 4 times. 2nd fret on the G string 4 times. The B string 4 times. And then that 1st finger 4 times. So you do that ascending, do it descending as well. So 2 things are really going on there. You are building the muscle memory, but you are also memorizing the shape. And when I mean the shape, it's how the shape feels in your hand as well. So it's really important to get that idea that it's not just dots, it's about the shape of your hand, the way that your hand forms. Then what we do, we play the note twice. Now 4 times gives you a lot of space and freedom to kind of soak this information in. But when we do it twice, it puts a little bit more pressure on yourself. But if we keep it to the same speed, if this is 4 times, what we're going to do is you're just going to play it twice. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So instead of 4 with a strum on each note, what we do is we just go 1, 2, 3, 4. It gives us lots of time to do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back down. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hopefully that makes sense. So remember, we started off with 4. We've got this inverted pyramid. We're going 4, 2. Then now what we're going to do is we're going to go 1. Now when we go 1, what we want to do is we want to make sure that that 1 that we play lasts for the length of that count of 4. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the thing is, you've just played each note once, and that is the same as, you see, I just played the scale there, each note once. So we're going from this 1, 2, 3, 4 idea, and then what we can do is we can get a metronome, put it on a really low tempo, 70 beats per minute. I'll leave a link for a free metronome in Google that you can use. And what you'll do is if you go along with that and just do this going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then what you do is you dial the metronome up 10 beats. So you take it to 80 beats per minute. Makes it a little bit quicker, but you will find where your comfort zones are, and that's the challenge. That's the challenge, actually, is find out where your comfort zones are. Keep doing this, repeat it to defeat it, and then what will happen is you'll find that you have measurable results. Write it down the day that you start to learn a scale, how long it took you to play it 5 times, say, for example. So I could do this. The object is to play C major 5 times. See how long it takes you to play it. It could be a new scale. But the thing is, what you can do is you can push that tempo, keep pushing it, because you are only limited by your constraints. And those comfort zones that you play in, those tempos, comfort zones are killers. They absolutely destroy any progress. So if you want to get better, then you have to destroy your comfort zones. Push that tempo up. But be aware of how fast it is that you can play it. What's the max speed that you could play that scale at? Slowly and surely, you will get this process down. Now, I said C major here. There is another way to play the C major. We played it there in that open position. We can also play it in a box pattern. So if I take a C major, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start on the same note that I started here. This is how cage works as well. That's a little nugget. Look, there's C-shaped C, A-shaped C. They link into each other. So you can borrow notes from each of those if you are playing those. So if I go here, this is the A-shaped C box pattern, if you want to think of it in that way. So if I go like this, I go. So there, I just played the C major in what is called the A shape there, but essentially I went up 2 octaves. It's a 2-octave pattern. If you are doing any sort of grades, this is what you have to play. You have to learn these patterns. So if you're doing these for academic reasons, then this is what you need to do. I've put tons of people through their grade exams. This is one of the things that I know that you definitely have to do. So what we do is we take that pattern and we do the same process. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a 2 notes per string pattern, but the next one is 3. So we go. Oh, that's cool, because if I know that, then I can assign my fingers. Now that's another thing we need to talk about, was assigning fingers. We want to keep into what's called positional playing as much as possible. So if I'm in this position, the first finger plays that fret, the second finger plays that fret, third finger plays that fret, and the pinky plays this fret. However, sometimes it's not always the best way. If you want to be a blues player or a rock player for your lead stuff, then you might find that it's easier to move over to using first and third finger instead of second and fourth. Be quite agnostic about this. You know, how many guitarists does it take to change a light bulb? Well, you know, it's actually only one, but a million to tell you that you could play it a gazillion different ways. You've got to find your own way that works for you, because like I say, everybody's hands are different. So what works for your hands and what works for somebody else's hands may be completely different, and that's okay. Right, so back to this. We've got 3 notes on this one. I use my first, second, and my pinky on here. Some people have really long fingers and they might be able to get the third finger on here. So this is why I'm quite agnostic about fingerings there with that. So 4 notes on this one. Now what we can do is, while we're there, let's just chunk that and work on that on its own. So we go 2, fret 2, fret 3, fret 5. And then go down it, descend it. You can try that 4-2-1 method, because the thing is, it's shown in neurological studies that actually when you take pieces of information and you break them up and make them more interesting, then there's more chance of you retaining them. If you just do this for 15 minutes, not only will you bore yourself to death, your mind will wander and you are not focused on what you're doing. So therefore, you are not absorbing the information in the correct manner. You need to be completely aware to observe what's going on here. You can even be musical with it. Take it in this way. If you have a few techniques, apply them to it. It's always a good idea to do that, so we can... Now this is the next one. This is another case for fingers 1, 2, 3. I prefer to use my pinky on 3 note per string shapes. Right, so I could, when I switch over here, use fingers 2 and 4, which I was talking about earlier on. But I find that a little bit awkward myself. Might work for you, you know. There. So what I do is I pull that first finger on and I shift position. Then that first finger goes on here, then the third finger can go on here, and then the pinky can go on here. So we take that one there. Now what I do is I transfer more notes up this string here. I go 3 up to 5, then 7 and 8, and that finishes the scale off 2 octaves. That is the scale in that position. But let me show you something really cool about this one. I like octave shapes. This is an A-shaped octave. And I think of those as bookends. And if you think about bookends on a bookshelf, the books can be whatever subject you want. So this is great for all scales. If it was minor, those 2 notes are the same, harmonic minor. It doesn't matter what the scale is, the bookends contain the notes that are in between, those other intervals. Now the major scale, if you refer to my other lesson, then you'll know it has a root, it's got a second, then it's got a third, a fourth, a fifth, sixth, a seventh, and then an octave. You can hear that there. Now the funny thing is this little octave shape here, because the strings are all tuned in fourths, until we get to the disruption in the kink in the tuning between the G and the B string, then this pattern here repeats itself going up onto the E string. But what we need to do is we need to find that root note first. So look, here's the C, there's the C, there's the C on the E string. Now you could count up, you could go E, F, G, A, B, C. This is why you need to know your notes. So there's my C. Now if I play that same pattern again, you'll see that it goes 2 notes on 1 string. That's the root in the second. Then when I move to the A string, I get 3 notes on this string, just like I did when I played it down here. Watch this. So I get that there. Then if I move down a string, I get the same pattern. These patterns, 2 fingers, 3, this moves. It's worth noting in this that this sound here is a bit mellower, it's a bit softer, because the thickness of the strings changes the timbre of the scale. So they're exactly the same pitch, but you can hear that there's more brightness and pinging in that G string there. This is, and it's a different mood. And you think about it, this is an important idea, is when you play the guitar, you're trying to create a mood. This is what it is. That's what modes are. Modes are moods. So look, guys, this is really, really critical. And the idea of taking that into a box pattern, I can extend that idea because I'm here. And now what I have to do is I have to extend that pattern through to my thin E string. And then you can see there, there's a D shape in there. So that's the C major scale as a box pattern. That's in the PDF. We can also, if you want to be a shredder and do that kind of thing, what we can do is we can play a 3-note per string version of this C major scale. This is a little bit easier to visualize because there's just 3 notes on the strings as we go down. So if we go, now this one, what it does is it follows the step. The distance between that step is a half step, yeah? So if I just move up a half step, you can hear that note and that note are the same. So we've got this wide pattern here. It's a major third distance on that string, and it's a major third distance on that string with a note smack bang in the middle of the two. Step, step, that's the pattern. Then we go up step, step. Then we go a half step, step, but what we have to do is, instead of staying in that position, we have to come up a fret. So we go from 9, 10, 12 on this one. So half step, step, same again, half step, step on the G string. And like I say, how we practiced those scales before. Do that picking pyramid. Mix it up. It's up to you what you do with it. You can be really musical with it, which is really important because that's the ultimate goal here, is to play music. So now what we're going to do, because we're crossing over that G and B, we've got to eliminate that kink in the tuning. The way that we do that, we've got to jump up again. So we're at the 10th fret, and what we've got is that index finger first, then we've got the 3rd finger, then we've got the pinky. Here, you can use fingers 1, 2, and 3. And if you're in the higher frets, that's probably a wise move. And you can see that that goes finger 1, finger 2, finger 3. That pattern goes up a step and a half step. This goes up a step and a half step. So really, there's only 3 patterns that you need to remember. And the thing is, there's a lesson coming about that. So here we've got this open scale. We've got the fretted version here. We've got the octave. Now we can extend that. And then what we can do is we can play it as the 3-note per string idea. We can play it in lots of different ways. The thing is, you've just got to program it into your fingers. Defeat it by repeating it, guys. That's the way it works. Use a metronome. Hopefully that was useful. Use the PDF in the description below, and I'll see you in another lesson soon.